Hey guys, namaste. It's kind of a random brainwave-ish kind of video as I was skimming through some of the curriculum for the new SATs. And part of why I am doing these series of videos is because of this right here. And it's kind of concerning. There's a nationwide STEM shortage, and I'm quite frankly concerned. Before, I used to tutor a lot of kids that I have tutored. All of them have done extremely well. Shout out goes out to Manas and Ali, who've done extremely well on their SATs, in the 99 percentile and up, 1540 and up. And it's really good to see kids flourish. You teach kids and they do really good, and then something like this happens, and you're just worried that it's going to cost us the next Einstein. And quite frankly, it might as well, because there's just shortage of teachers in physics, chemistry, biology, everywhere. And I think learning itself is adapting to the new life, to the new normal. I hope it's not a new normal, but we never know. So we have to adapt, and learning has to become quite independent. So part of my initiative is to bring some of the classes that I used to tutor. And yeah, I was paid quite well for some of those tutoring sessions. But I think it's time to bring some of those tutoring sessions to the public so everyone can benefit from it. And I think this is the time to do it. And part of what I wanted to show here is inside the mind of a test taker. What is different? What is different between most of the people who go for taking their tests and the ones who really score perfect scores? They go to Harvard, Stanford, UCLA, and stuff. And after tutoring so many successful kids, what I've learned is that their minds are extremely simple. They're good listeners, and they think simplistic. So that's part of it. Try to keep a clear head and try to simplify your thought process. And I was going to actually take a live test, and there's a quick set. I don't have a lot of time, but let's see if I can find something here that has like a 10-15 minute test. Oh, there you go. Okay. So I was just going to go through and do some quiz live, some of these questions live, to see what goes on inside the minds of a test taker. Yeah, I took my tests a long time ago, and but I've worked really hard on staying fresh and current with the new changing, templates of these tests. Now let's just, without further ado, I'm just going to go start. Okay, so let's see what goes on in the minds. If a plus 2 is greater than 5 and a minus 4 is less than 1, which of the following could be a value of a? Okay, inequalities. These are really loved by the SAT. They just love to slap these in the test. But this one is fairly simple. A minus 4 less than 1, so a must be less than 5. So right off the bat, 5 and 6, they're gone. 4 and 3. Okay, so 4 plus 2 greater than 5. So that satisfies. So that was quite simple of a question. Some of those can get quite extensive, but if you really know your content well and think simplistic, you might be able to get those answers pretty quickly. Okay, what are we looking at here? Which of the following is the best estimate of the slope of the line that best fits the data shown in the figure? Assume that the blackboard area is a square. Okay, well, right off the bat, I can tell the answer is this, but now they're not really showing what is x and what is y, which direction is positive or negative. So if you flip the graph, it could be completely different. So this is not a good question. I think it would be an experimental question. But, we got to think simple. It's probably not going to be flipped in weird ways. And it's going to be this. This is probably the answer, because the graph of a negative slope goes towards the left, leans towards the left. And this is probably the answer. Reading. Okay. Yeah, I'll be honest with you, English is my second language. So I had this disadvantage even when in the late 90s when I was preparing for my tests. I was always 100% correct. I scored perfectly in the math and the logic sections of my test, the GRE. And I fell short quite a bit on my reading. But since then, I've worked quite a bit on these things. So let's just see. The first things, we got to read the passage. Obviously. But how do we read it? Let's try to figure out what this passage is about. As cars become popular, the effect on population distribution was likewise profound. Unlike railroads, which helped concentrate the population in cities, the automobile contributed to urban sprawl and eventually to the rise of the suburbs. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so without even reading this completely all the way, I kind of tell that this is kind of analytical. It's obviously not history. I don't see dates. I don't see historical figures. It's not scientific. It doesn't have a lot of scientific data and graphs. This looks like it's sort of an analytical passage, which means it's going to either propose a theory and then offer some proofs for it, some sort of evidence that supports it, and some sort of evidence that counters it. So these kind of passages are usually like that. So let me keep going, see if my guess is correct. People no longer needed to live near public transportation lines within walking distance of their jobs, so were drawn to outlying areas with less congestion and lower property taxes. Business districts became less centralized for similar reasons. Sadly, this movement towards suburbs, okay, looks like here. Now, they're using some emotional keywords. Sadly, this movement towards suburbs exacerbated social stratification since cars were initially affordable only to wealthier people. Okay, so it's a social passage. It's sort of like a social science. It's trying to see how the movement towards the suburbs has created kind of a social stratification. A social stratification meaning level. Strata is the word, it means levels. Since cars were initially affordable only to wealthier people, the upper and middle classes moved out of cities. Many businesses followed, attracted by the educated, well-trained workforce. As good jobs also moved out of the cities, the people who remained were further disadvantaged and even less able to leave. Though few anticipated in the heady early days of suburban growth, by century's end, cars had helped to further entrench social division in America by making possible great physical distances between rich and poor. Okay, so it looks like this passage is sort of angry at cars, that because of cars, people have spread out to the suburbs, and there has been quite a bit of gap between the rich and the poor. Now, it's quite a bold claim to make, but I don't see any counter arguments. When you read these passages, you have to take them with a grain of salt, because sometimes they may be giving you the wrong information or biased information, and that's on purpose. So let's see, what questions do we have here? The bolded lines above, what distinction does the author draw between the two types of transportations? Bolded lines. Unlike railroads, which help concentrate population in the cities, the automobile contributed to urban sprawl and eventually the rise of the suburbs. Okay. So somehow cars have helped the rise of the suburban areas. So what distinction? So what's the difference? Railroads are more efficient mode of transportation than automobiles. That's too bold of a claim. And there's not enough evidence in this passage to prove that railroad is more efficient. So I'm just going to skip right past it. Automobiles allow greater flexibility while railroads operate on a fixed schedule. Okay, again, there's no information in the passage about flexibility or schedules. Railroads promote clustered populations. Okay, while automobiles promote dispersed population. Okay, so they're using synonym. Dispersed population, urban sprawl. Okay, so that looks like some promising thing there. But let's read through the rest. Automobiles replaced railroads as the preferred American mode of transportation. Replaced railroads. Okay, again, a bold statement with no proof listed in the passage. The passage is too small to actually make claims like that. So logically, this would be the answer from a simplistic approach. Okay, same passage. As bolded above, profound. Where is profound? I can't see this. Got a bold on top of bold. Okay, well, the word profound really means deep, but it can also mean far-reaching, thoughtful, likely not, because there's nothing thoughtful about urban sprawl. So it's likely far-reaching. Okay, grammar. In recent years, many parents have expressed concern that the atmosphere of violence propagated by the American entertainment industry may be having a harmful effect on their children. Certainly, these parents are correct that violent acts such as murder have become the pervasive theme of everything from feature films to television cartoons. But this kind of depravity altogether new to the world of the child. But is this kind of depravity altogether new to the world of the child? Okay. So there's going to be some grammatical mistakes in here. Haven't parents for centuries been exposing their children to fairy tales that are at least as gory and violent? Okay, so this looks like a rant. Somebody is just, it's almost like a forum post. Somebody just writing stuff, no grammar, nothing. So, number one, certainly these parents are correct that violent acts such as murder, comma. So what would be the correct? Obviously it needs some change because the punctuation doesn't seem right. Certainly these parents are correct that violent acts such as murder. It's usually violent acts such as murder, and then they list a whole bunch of things. But since there's just one, it's probably going to need some more punctuation. Such as murder, there should be a comma after there. Now, semicolon is usually a sentence before a semicolon is a complete sentence. It's not a fragment. So if I were to put a semicolon right here, certainly these parents are correct that violent acts such as murder, violent acts. So certainly these parents are correct that violent acts. That's a fragment sentence, so this can't be true. So it's between these two, and my guess would be this. Violent acts such as murder have become. Okay, in recent years, many parents have expressed concern that the atmosphere, I think the same passage, so certainly these parents are correct. Number two, but is this kind of depravity altogether new to the world of the child? This looks like a question, probably. Because starting with, but is this kind of depravity altogether new to the world of the child? Okay. Shouldn't be a semicolon because it's obviously a question. Okay, well there you go, 100%. So, I might do a few more in the series where I tackle some questions live and sort of give you what's going on in my head when I handle these questions. So that's it for today. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.